Hi ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. Last couple of videos we were doing some setup. If you've watched them, you'll now see a map covered in counters. Geoff and I have got this kind of set up. You'll notice some bits and pieces are lying about on the map, mainly so you can see what's there. This is the very large Italian Navy. The Royal Navy is actually sat off map. You can't quite see it in the camera, but it's not exactly small either. All the Greek ships, which I've got lying here, are actually based in Athens and Piraeus. As far as I'm concerned, they're all doing convoy stuff below the level of the game. And in discussion with Geoff, we've basically agreed that there's not going to be any interference going across the Aegean for supplies and so on. The problem the Italians have got in this game is simple. They have one game turn to take the whole of Greece. They can't do it. The weather is about to change. There's a good chance the weather, in fact, will be pretty poor anyway, because we haven't mandated it. That's quite nasty of me, but it should be reasonably good weather. So Geoff, if you can find the weather charts for me, please. You do need them. What we're going to do is we're going to roll the weather right now. I've got them there. Oh, it should be in that pile.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah, we don't. Might be some buried in this. There's a full set of charts. No. So what we're going to do, we're going to roll the weather. It's in there.
Good.
And once we get the weather sorted out, you can then see just how miserable it is. I'm being polite. So Geoff, can you pick up one die, please, and roll it?
Yep. 6.
6. So it's poor weather. It's all Mediterranean wet. Yeah, no modifier on it. So it's not great. 6. Still warm, so at least it's not freezing and snowing. So essentially pretty much anywhere where the combat's going to be, this is this area here, the weather's pretty poor. It started to rain, the ground's okay, it's not flooded yet. So we'll worry about that some other time in the next game turn. What we're going to do essentially is Geoff's going to move stuff about. So the first thing we need to look at is how units move. Ground units move hex to hex, as do air units. Now air units cost 1 movement point to go into each hex. Their maximum range for the purposes of most things is what's printed in the bottom right hand corner. So if it's got a 9 there, like the CR42 here, you can fly out 9 hexes and come back 9 hexes, and we've got an allowance built into every counter for combat. Ground units work a bit differently, because they go from point A to point B, hex by hex by hex. And there's 3 things that impact upon them. The first one's terrain. That can be ameliorated by the transport lines you can see. It just depends on the particular type of road, railway, gravel track, or absolutely appalling track that you happen to be on. As to not any benefit. The second thing is obviously weather. So really bad weather, you get lots of mud, lots of snow, slows things down. So you go a shorter distance for a given period of time. And the final thing that you need to be aware of is the juxtaposition of enemy units. Now, every board game has some way to show how that works. We call it a zone of influence. Another game might call it a zone of control, or they might call it whatever. It doesn't really matter. We're only interested in ZOIs. So a ZOI exists around every division, all the hexes round it in a circle. If you've got enemy units, you can't exert it into the occupied hex if the enemy unit is big enough. So essentially, a division negates your own ZOI going forward. So along this line, the Greeks have a brigade which has got a reduced Z of ZOI round here. That does have some impact, but not a huge amount. That division has a full ZOI, and this Greek brigade, again, reduced, doesn't matter, in the full division here. So you get the idea that there are areas around the counters which are influenced by their existence, never mind the fact that maybe a unit in the hex. So the Italian plan, and I hope Geoff's been looking at this, in my view, is to either try and go down the coast and use the Navy to supply them from the very small ports. Problem there is the nearest small port is right down here at the Gulf of Corinth. Now, I know that they don't have the movement to do that, and I want to. And even if they did, the Allies have enough naval power to make it really difficult to supply. The Italians may be better to try and capture the big towns in this area here and just hang on till better weather, but they have a supply problem in the supply chain that starts from this hex here and moves a certain distance forward from it to the HQs which provide or disseminate supply to actual combat units. As you can see, the Italian setup is not great. There's very little leeway in it, by the way, in the game setup, because the Italians themselves did it like this, and you've got very good information that the commanders were essentially browbeaten into it by Mussolini. So we're not going to permit any change there. There is something called a quartermaster unit. That's basically a bunch of trucks doing supply work hidden in here. It can support 5 stacking points. But if you check the Axis OB, you'll find out that disappears very quickly because they actually sucked all those trucks out to essentially provide mobility to additional corps and army level HQs that end up in Albania. So swings and roundabouts, you can use it, but if you expose it and lose it, you're in trouble. You can move forward and pray, which is kind of what the Italians did. They actually did inflict quite heavy casualties in the upfront Greek forces, which is not a bad thing. Winning somehow with the Italian forces is definitely worth doing. The final point to remember is that both sides in this game have a few special capabilities. The Italians have a CEV of 1, that's combat efficiency, so whatever you see printed in your counter is the strength, unless the terrain negates that. The Greeks have a slightly higher CEV because they were highly motivated, and oddly enough for such a small nation, they were quite well trained, and they had a lot of, particularly senior officers, had combat experience from the Balkan Wars and wars with Turkey after the First World War. That meant that they understood how to fight in their own terrain rather well, and also the Greek populace were a bit annoyed. So the first thing to bear in mind as a Greek player, you are better man for man than the Italians, but there end up being quite a lot of Italians. The second problem you've got is political power in this game is shown directly, because in TSWW you're not the army, you're not the national commander, you're an army commander or a theatre commander. So the Greek force command, if it allocates stuff to fight the Italians, can never withdraw it from that front. Seems a bit like an idiot rule, but actually that was the political decision making that hampered anything done by the Greeks during the campaign. And it means that if Germany intervenes at some point, which it will, and comes roaring down here, there's very little to defend it if you send it all to attack into Albania. There are various cases to be made, depending on how you want to play the game, that you just let it sit, or you move bits off it, or whatever. However, having said all of that, we're here to teach you how to play the game. So what I'm going to try and do the next half an hour is at least get one set of combats done in this area to give you an idea of how the system works. We'll then do some movement, and we might decide to try and amphibiously assault Corfu here, because that's actually quite a simple operation for the Italians. They do have a single infantry regiment that's amphibious, and they've got all the lift to do it. If we do that, the British have deployed one of their submarine flotillas in this area. And that gives the British and the Greeks an opportunity here to be nasty to the Italian fleet. Historically, because of the day battle on land, the Corfu invasion was due to go in about a week after the initial ground assault was cancelled. And as far as I'm aware, the Greeks retained Corfu till the surrender to the Germans. In the game, I have taken it. I've also ignored it as the Italian player. As the Greek player, I generally want the regiment that's stuck there off the island if possible, because Greece is short of manpower and every man counts. So, Geoff, what do you want to do in terms of your attack?
Let's start with that Corfu as amphibious. So let's go with that. Clear, right. That's simple.
Okay, have you got, there we go. We've got the San Marco Marine Regiment. That's it right there, guys. It's a 1-6 unit. So 6 is the number of hexes and clear terrain it can go. 1 is its combat strength. We know that the Italian CEV is 1, so what you see is what you get. Now, I'm not going to bother setting up exactly how this works, but there's some landing barges in the counter mix. they're used to land this unit. And they're transported from the port of embarkation, in this case it'll be Taranto, and probably Bury. So what happens is you have 2 naval shipping points per landing barge to carry it there, and you need 2 landing barges to do the amphibious assault with this unit, except for one little thing. If you look carefully at the icon, it's got a wavy line. It's amphibious. So you only need 1 landing barge and 2 NSPs. That also gets you some supply points if you want with it. We were hoping we weren't going to need it because the Italian army is going to attack that hex there, I would presume. The idea being, of course, that that will then relieve the threatened force here as it goes ashore. Now, the Greek player has very cautiously deployed that in the port in the large town in Corfu, which has got a ferry route into Greece itself. The Italians can do an unopposed landing in any one of the 3 hexes round it on the island. My recommendation, having played this game a lot, is you attack the port, despite the fact it's dangerous because there's no coast defences. All right. And you're going to turn up, I imagine, with some ships to provide naval gunfire support.
Correct.
Would that be correct?
Yeah.
Are you prepared to risk your battle fleet, or are you going to use cruisers and destroyers for this?
Cruisers and destroyers.
Apparently, Chianti tastes a whole lot better than seawater, so he is hoping that there won't be any major engagement from the British. Right? It's the gentleman's agreement having already been scuppered, I may well roll to see if I find the buggers. Right? So, what do you want? How many destroyers and so on?
Right, okay. Right, if I can just have the order of battle.
I presume you want something that's going to protect your assault force.
Exactly.
Can I suggest that you therefore must have a huge number of little destroyer escorts and so on?
Correct.
Because you don't really want to risk your fleet destroyed.
Exactly. Right.
So for that,
the thing. Database, of course.
8, 9, and yes, this is correct. 10, 11, 12. Oh, it's a submarine. Where deploying your subs? You do have submarines. I presume you're going to use.
Wait a minute. I think there's might be. I don't think I actually deploy those. Excuse me. It's all that's on here. These are the ones that fell off the.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So stuff that's on here.
Yeah. So, right, submarines. I think the submarines are there. Cool.
Some of these are actually from this force, and I know they are.
Okay.
Doesn't really matter because most of these will chuck it. You need a whole bunch. 6, 7, 8. 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, or 15, 16. And all we're doing is we're making sure that the Italian Navy provides enough escorts, in this case 16, to get past that submarine without too many problems, hopefully.
How many submarines in that counter? 12?
Yeah, but only 3 or 4 will be floating about the area.
Yeah.
The reason you have to chuck so many in as the Italian player, the British could do this with 6 or 8 destroyers. The reason the British can do it is they've got good anti-submarine warfare kit on their ships. The Italians only had hydrophones. They didn't actually have sonar. If you don't believe us, please go and check. Come back, apologise, because we know we're right. It's absolute idiocy, if you ask me, to sail Italian ships into British and Greek submarine flotillas, but far be it from me to tell the man he's wrong. That said, he isn't risking anything too big. Now, are you using heavy cruisers or light cruisers?
Maybe 2 light cruisers, 1 heavy cruiser. Just enough to maybe stiffen, but at the end of the day, assume everything being used is going to be lost.
Yeah, well, for this one, you might be right. So, can you go into the game rules?
Yep.
And look up naval interception, please.
Right. Naval interception. Revised edition at start.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah, with the actual manual.
Yeah, right. So, what we need to do, the reason I'm getting Geoff to look it up right, is I can do this fairly quickly,
Mm.
right, but I want him to have a quick look at it as we go through it. Right, naval combat, naval movement, spotting. So we'll be under 55, I imagine. Page 55. So a quick look at this, see if we can find the right bit here. Now, this is really important because what we can do as a British player is hopefully need a die. Yeah, I get 6. So 6, I've got a +2 in naval efficiencies, and 8, that gets me 1 guaranteed spot in anything Italian at sea.
Perfect.
So I've found him. I know it's at sea. I may not know exactly where he's going, but I am now going to hopefully go to sea myself.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that I'm going to sea does not mean that I'm going to catch him. Okay? So I do have to spot him properly again. So de facto that I've got submarines there and he's doing an amphibious assault on Corfu and people are going to be screaming on the radio, generally means he's an automatic spot. Okay? So the Royal Navy needs to put together a battle group to deal with this so what I'm looking for, obnoxious and offensive Italian operation. As I am clearly Admiral Cunningham.
Oh shit.
The Royal Navy will be deploying an adequate surface response. Adequate surface response will be 3 battleships, every cruiser and every destroyer and 1 aircraft carrier with its air group.
Oh, it should be. Yeah.
Should be enough, but it might not be. Because the Italians can also send their battle fleet to sea. And this is where the naval game in this starts to get a bit interesting. Because simply put, it doesn't really matter what you do, the other guy can always do something to really mess with your head. And I'm very aware that the entirety of the Italian fleet is actually more powerful than the entirety of the British fleet that's available. All right, so although I've got 2 carriers, which are going to have a couple of swordfish, my total anti-aircraft capability is not that good. And I'm flying close to some Italian air power, which I'm going to ask Geoff about very quickly in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
See your Italian air power.
Yep.
Are you going to use it for ground support, or are you going to use it perhaps to try and protect your fleet? Now that's a really important question. I'm going to let him sit and consider it. The reason it's important, guys, is really simple. If he uses it to protect his fleet, the chances of his fleet being totally destroyed are significantly lessened. But he has to preset that at the top of the game turn. But because we're teaching him to play it, don't worry too much about getting stuff out of order. The idea is you get a feel for how it works and how it's meant to work and the impact it's going to have. So, you've now had time to think, and that's how long you're getting, by the way.
Yeah.
Are you going to allocate your Stukas to naval support?
Stukas? Yes. Nothing else.
Right, okay. See if they'll reach. I would strongly recommend. Yeah, they can just, right? So operating from down here, the Stukas are going to be, which are just here, are going to be operating. And I've suggested that I'm going to suggest that he has a reconnaissance asset allocated as well.
Yep, fair enough.
Right? And that reconnaissance plane, the idea is to maximise the opportunity to spot something. The Italian National Intelligence means please roll it. Yeah, didn't get anything. Because basically his air hires the answer. So every time we try and spot, we need something. Now, because I'm bringing a carrier, I'm suggesting that some fighters be included here. They can reach that far, which means the Fiat G50 bis is what is going to be flying. And the G50 is not a great plane. But then again, neither's the Fulmer. And that's what I've got on my carrier force. So the reality of it is we now have a big naval battle about to occur, hopefully. Right, so can you do me a favour? We'll put together a covering force. Yep. Got a cruiser. Presume all the battleships are still operational.
Yep.
They haven't been sunk. What a shame. Right.
I mean, at this point now you've sorted the Royal Navy, what I'd probably want to do was instantly think about sorting the entire Italian fleet. Well, because I've committed the aircraft.
Yeah.
So it's getting to the point where don't undercommit.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be stupid, be properly stupid.
Well, we actually do have another really interesting little rule to help the Italians make their mind up once they're at sea.
Mm-hmm.
If the Italians find out that the Allies have an aircraft carrier with them, they must automatically withdraw if at all possible.
Mm.
This is because of repeated engagements where Italian ships were quite heavily impacted by just the presence of British torpedo bombers off the carrier groups.
Yes.
And a sea carrier group, the British operated Eagle with Illustrious whenever possible.
Mm-hmm.
We were not. Some Americans don't believe the Royal Navy did it. The Royal Navy invented the multi-carrier task force in 1926 and 29 during naval trials. And in fact, when we're doing World War I research, pointless aside, I found out that the Red Fleet was operating up to 10 seaplane carriers together.
Mm.
Got about 30 planes up in the air doing that.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different. So we're going to sail task force counter. Can you get a task force counter for the Italians, please?
Five, the generic.
Yeah, it doesn't matter which one.
Right.
Probably on one of the Italian counter sheets.
That's so useful.
Now, the reason we're doing this all in front of you guys is we want you to see what you need to do to set up one of these things. Now, normally we'd use an off-map display. I'm using the table here because it's a little bit easier, and it means that we can show bits and pieces of how ships interact in the game. Okay? So the surface action group I'm going to have is going to be one heavy cruiser, 3 light cruisers, 4 battleships. Be helpful if I could find. There we go, Sydney. That's who I'm after. The carrier group, because I'm going to put 2 separate groups to sea, will be Eagle and Illustrious, a bunch of destroyers and some cruisers. The idea is it is never going to get too close.
Mm.
All right, that's very important. The British player must always protect its key assets. Its key assets are not what you might think. All too many people think the British key assets are the battleships. Frankly, their battle wagons are pretty much irrelevant for most of the war. They are just targets at this point. What they're really important for is their ability to provide AA support to their carrier groups.
Mm.
It's exactly how the Americans did it in the Pacific. It's how the Japanese should have been doing it and didn't. And if anyone's done any research, you'll rapidly realise that that failure was catastrophic on the part of the Japanese. And it meant that Japanese carrier groups tended to be somewhat weak in air defence.
I'll find this generic counter. This is.
It's not on it. It's not generic. It's actually says it on it. It says task force.
Oh, and
You don't need that one. Well, it doesn't matter. Well, I dropped. Right, have a quick look.
task force.
They don't provide many task force counters because, frankly, you don't really need them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Well,
the British ones are they're Greek. So, yeah, in there.
Yep, that's Italian.
No, it's not Italian. In this game, it's just a target. For all my Italian clients, I am actually cracking bad jokes here, by the way. I don't really mean it. Come on.
Yeah, gotcha. Right. So, let's see. So, do I want to put a task force counter there? Do cover?
You can actually sit at sea.
Yep. Yeah.
Or sit in port because you need to see if you find me.
Yeah. That's
Because otherwise you're burning oil. Italy doesn't have a lot of oil. We don't bother with it in Balkan Fury. We do bother about it in other games. I wouldn't be at sea unless I had to be for the Italian.
Mm.
One day in a video I'll tell you about why not, because I learned a harsh lesson many years ago playing the game. However, a bunch of destroyers here. I mean, a vast number of destroyers. assigned to the surface action group, whole pile of cruisers, etc.
Mm.
Now, once you get into the system, we have a rule about ships being subtracted from the Italian forces on map to run convoys, and the same thing happens to the British. So when there's a Malta convoy or a convoy to North Africa, significant numbers of naval assets from the two fleets are actually not available for on-map use here. Because oddly enough, both sides looked upon this as something of a sideshow from a naval standpoint.
Mm.
Albania was Italy's primary concern, though, for logistics. That's why they did so badly in the desert for so long. So we've got an assault going in. I know you're there. I've got my two battle groups. So one is a force of 8 destroyers, 2 AA cruisers, a light cruiser, and an old battleship, 2 aircraft carriers. They've got 60 odd airplanes on board. The battle fleet's 3 modern battleships or modernised battleships, 4 cruisers, and about 12 fleet destroyers. What Geoff has got for the assault are 3 cruisers, 1 heavy, 2 light, a bunch of destroyer escorts, speaker class torpedo boats, that kind of thing. They're not very powerful, but they're very, very useful for this kind of operation. So that's that huge row there. Okay, and enough amphibious left to put that regiment we spoke about. So you sail up. So we need a task force counter of some description.
Yep.
Right, great. So you're now in that sea zone there, adjacent to the hex.
Sure.
First question you also have is, have the British and the Greeks got anything they can attack it? Well, yes, we do have a little bit of air power. So I need to roll, because it's there. I want to attack it before the assault, so I need to roll, see if I spot him. That's a plain miss. Another miss. Another miss. I don't get him. I can't see him, right? So the bottom line is, because we can't see him, his potential assault is now well on the way to being good. My submarine drivers, however, can hear it. They've got hydrophones. They roll a 5, they don't spot you.
Lucky.
Okay? So that is an escape.
Mm.
But the British are now fully alert and have called up the fleet, and the fleet is steaming from way over here at Alexandria on map.
Mm.
Now, one of the problems the British will have is fuel. So at the bottom of the map down here, which you'll be able to see when you've got the game in front of you, there's a number in the middle of the sea zones. Now, each sea zone is where the ships move from. That number is the number of sea zones from Alexandria, that particular one is. So this one here is 6. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. From the charts in the game, we know that British destroyers have 13 sea zone movement points in each naval phase. So I can just about get here from Alexandria, but I don't have a lot of time left in that particular naval movement segment, so I really can't hang about with this. You're about to do your assault. Are you going to allocate any aircraft to ground support? Probably not. You're going to use some of your cruisers, I would guess, for naval gunfire support.
Yep.
So I would suggest that you allocate 1. It's really all it needs.
Okay.
Okay. So if you go into the rules, amphibious assaults, you'll find that the value in the cruiser is massively changed from what's printed.
Naval system concepts.
Well,
Naval units.
I'm going to pull it up with the PC, it'll be quicker. Right. Okay. So guys, now just so you know,
Amphibious operations 59.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll find that.
Right.
Tell the ladies and gentlemen outline what kind of what it says.
Right. So, amphibious operations and naval missions for the purpose of transport ground units. Yes. 4 types of amphibious operations. Assault, which I think is what we're effectively doing. We're establishing a beachhead. Amphibious shipping limitations. I do not think we need to look at that right now. We already have what's being transported and what craft. Planning amphibious operations. Do not require pipe planning. Turn of execution identified. So I presume I'm doing a tactical landing.
No, you're doing an amphibious assault.
Right. So I need. to. Should have waited a turn then.
No, that's all right. Don't worry about it.
Right.
It's happening.
Fine. Fair enough. Right. So naval gunfire. Full raids. such. Considering damage. Okay. Let's see. 30 reserve. Right, no. Force. Right, I don't think it has naval gunfire here. So it may
alright,
be.
I'm looking it up, don't worry.
Okay. Assume it's naval.
Okay, so two little things you need to be in mind here. The Italian cruisers all have float planes. We're using the optional float plane rule here because it makes life a bit more interesting if there is a naval surface engagement. On the counter, in between the two sets of numbers at the bottom, there is a code. FM means float planes and M means mine layer. So the Armando Diaz is about to provide naval gunfire support for this assault landing.
Yep.
And it uses its printed combat strength. So the Italians have 11 naval gunnery points and 1 point from the ground force.
Yep.
The Greeks have a ground CEV, I think, of 1.2.
Yep.
Yeah, so they've got 1.2 strength points. Now, we need a calculator. Have you got your phone handy?
Yes.
So with that calculator, what we're going to do is work out the odds. And I have my own old-fashioned Casio here. I like old-fashioned Casios.
Good stuff.
Right, so we've got 12 divided by 1.2, 10 to 1 odds. Pretty much the Italians are going to take Torquay here. I don't know, and once they're ashore, the British will turn up, but they turn up afterwards because they're reacting to the Italian move.
Yeah.
The big defence was submarines and they didn't work. I didn't find you with any of my aircrafts that flew 3 naval cooperation air missions. None of them worked. You guys are ashore, essentially.
Yeah.
So where did we put that regiment?
Yeah.
Where did I put it? Put it down somewhere because I'm an idiot. I can't see it. This is the battalion. There it is there.
Right. Yeah.
So that has been delivered to that hex. We have to resolve the combat, but not immediately because we do combat resolution after all the movement.
Sure.
So we've got a combat going on here. So the next thing we need to look at is what are you going to be doing down here? What are you trying to do? I presume you want to grab that port so you can supply there.
Yep.
So I don't see much point in moving too much from this hex. We know you can always move one hex no matter what, yeah? So I would go there. And now can you find the terrain charts, please?
Terrain charts.
Yep.
Right, game chart.
The question here is, can Centauro Division encircle this?
Combat chart. Success getting
Close.
Ground CEV table.
Let's see if I've got it here. Yes, no, I don't.
No, right, it's not here. Right.
No. Where are we? Guys, be better organised. We like being chaotic. We're not professionals, we keep telling you that. So it says here, I'm looking at this map, there's a ZOI from that division, and there's some wooded hills, wooded mountains in fact. So can we move that thing in there? Wooded mountain. Yep, we can move in. So it's going to use 6 movement points plus the ZOI cost to get into the hex. Okay. Now we need to find the ZOI cost.
Right.
Okay. So in the rules, go to zones of influence. This is why it takes 45 minutes to play the game, by the way, to learn a bit about it and to get a handle on how this all works. You have a ZOI chart. If you can find the damn chart, it'll be a whole lot easier. You know, when we did the open box thing, I actually found the chart. Got it yet?
No.
This, by the way, guys, is why I always play the game using.
Could be ground combat for goodness sake. 63.
No, it'll be under the movement.
Right.
Zones of influence 7B.
B. Ah, right there. Yep, 33.
Do you need the zone of influence moving chart? Right, so the zone of influence movement chart is absolutely essential. Transportation, railways. Where on earth has Martin hidden this? This is the problem. I don't do the charts, guys. I have people who do this for me. So telling us means spotting, see movement, SMA, oil capacity, naval charts. You know, this is quite embarrassing now. I like being embarrassed online. It's great. It's why you guys all want to tune in and watch me screw up. However, we will find it, and we find it. The last laugh will be on you all. One might hope. What is it? Okay, we're going to pause the video while we go.
Wait a minute.
You got a chart there.
I've got a whole load of charts.
Right, we're looking for the zone of influence movement chart very quickly.
Naval chart, no. Naval chart 2, naval combat efficiency, no. Success. Game of
chart. There we are. Okay, mountainous terrain. GUI, movement chart. To leave an easy UI, or moving from one to the other. So here, we're moving across this division ZOI, yeah?
Yeah.
To get down here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 5. So it's actually going to move 11 movement points just to move 1 hex that way.
Fine.
Okay, so we've still got 5 left. Now, those 5, so let's take a look at what it is to go into this rough terrain next.
Yep.
Because it makes sense, I think, for that unit to go.
Right.
So the hills. So it's not clear, it's not intense. It's hills and desert hills. Motorized 2. Okay. So that division, however, has to leave that ZOI. We said we've got 5 left.
Yep.
Yep. It costs 4. It can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually frozen there. Now, the Italians can find something to go here, hopefully.
Mm.
Right, and I'd suggest moving Corps headquarters as well, somewhere down here, because we're going to need it to supply stuff. But let me have a look and see what we can do. I would shuffle that along that way.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, guys, I'm going to move those aircraft. We know it's there. We're just going to move them out the road while we can do this. So we've moved a division from there to there. We're going to move that division into that hex. We're going to shuffle them that way. And this is the problem that you've got with the lousy weather. Yes, things are movable, as you can see. We are moving units here and there. But we don't have a great deal of choice as to where we go. We can move that division into Greece that way, and possibly that one into Greece that way. Now, there's reasons for doing that, reasons for not doing it. Personally, I think if we move the units that way, we start to get around what I call the corner. It's this corner here, into Greece. It puts pressure on the Greeks up here because they can't afford to lose any of their big cities. The Italian Corps headquarters, which is sat at the end of the railway line there,
Yep, right there.
right, can move down this track to a point where it can actually provide supply to all of this pretty much. What we are missing is the Second Corps headquarters. There should be 2 in the area, and I can't see it. Did you miss it during the setup?
I don't think I would have. Well, I can only presume.
Yeah, so there should be one somewhere over here, but it doesn't matter too much. We're going to presume it's there just to keep the video going.
Yeah.
Right, so we now have a couple of attacks. The Greeks really want to hang on to that hex there.
Yeah.
You need to take these 2,
Mm-hmm.
and you'd probably like here that one to push that way.
Yeah.
potentially, and you know, it cuts that road there. You probably want to try attack here. Now, we could have moved that division here instead of from there down to here to get better odds. The question is it going to make any difference? Because the odds in that attack is going to be pretty miserable because of the fortification, the terrain's not great, there's poor weather. You know what? I think we need to try and open that road up and ignore the flank.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Because the ZOI from this division, if we're going to avoid it getting damaged, will essentially lock these two hexes.
Correct.
Okay. Now the Greeks, almost every Greek unit in the game, whether it says it in the counter or not, is treated as mountain units for combat, but not necessarily for movement. It's got to be a mountain symbol on it for movement. So the Greeks can possibly get to here. They can't go any further. And putting a regiment here really isn't a big deal for the Italians. They will have reinforcements coming in that can deal with that. Now, in air-to-air combat, there's a system. The reason I'm mentioning that right now is we're about to fly a bunch of air missions. The air missions are really, really important for the Italians here because you can get a plus-up. You've got theatre air superiority. In other words, you've got more planes on the board, more fighters. The Greek Air Force is very small and it's based about here with a few naval planes kicking about down there. They can intercept anything up here pretty much, right? But you need to take a risk as the Italian player. Now, we've already allocated your best ground attack planes up here to cover the fleet operation, which makes a huge amount of sense because it puts threat on the British. Now, the British, you can imagine, are still steaming up this way. You possibly had some kind of warning from your spies in Cairo, and we do have a die roll for that, but we're going to assume that that's not relevant at the moment because we're trying to learn the basics. So we've got a few bombers here. You could allocate one bomber per attack. Where the Greeks don't turn up with their one and only bomber and their one and only reconnaissance / ground attack plane, you will get a plus in the die roll. If you group them all together and the Greeks spread theirs about where you're not because they react to your move with this, problem you're going to have then is you may have 2 negative die rolls out of 3 attacks. Because essentially you've got 1, 2, 3 guaranteed attacks on one that you need to take a value judgment on here. That's quite a high risk one, but you know. So if you're going to attack all 4, you're going to need all your bombers which are in range flying. What do you fancy doing, Geoff?
Probably want to focus on one specific location because then that will give one particular army force the best possible chances. Because I have the feeling that if I spread myself too thin, it's going to cause a lot of problems.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to guarantee bomber superiority there.
Yeah. Because that's the linchpin of the entire operation.
Yeah. We're going to fly some fighter escort here.
That's fine.
And that leaves you with a small force here that can be used elsewhere. I would suggest if we're going to, it'd make a lot of sense for you to try and clear that hex.
Yes, that's fine.
The attack force is not great.
No.
But it's probably worth flying enough air power to get some kind of plus up.
Yeah.
And then that one there needs it as well. Now, I'm looking at that. It's about as good as you can do given the limitations of your air power.
Yeah.
You've sucked in air power here for a good reason. Personally, I wouldn't have invaded Corfu.
No.
That's just me, right? It's not that I'm risk averse, but I'm really, really conscious of the impact that getting that operation wrong can have. Now, so far, Italy has been very lucky.
Yeah.
Right? The British will attack it, guys. They know they're there. We're going to try and attack it at any rate, but we can't do anything until we've got a local spot on it. That local spot is automatic now the attack has occurred. The question will be, because there's actually an in and out and in and out here, there's going to be 2 in and outs. So the British are going to come up and react, try and do something. The Italian fleet can then roll to try and spot the British. But my attack's going to involve naval air power. As soon as that's there, the Italians basically run away. So I'm not worried about the Italian fleet in this particular engagement.
Sure.
Right? As the Greek player, I'm looking at my very weak air force, and I do have another fighter counter kicking about down at Athens. It's out of range. I don't really care. It provides something. I've got 2 bombers, well, a reconnaissance plane operating as a bomber unit, and I've got a fighter unit. As the Italians, Geoff is attacking. We threw all his air power in, realistically, to escort the key bit down here, because you want to try and clear the coast, I would imagine, to try and get down to grab that little port, to just sail in stuff. If you get Corfu, you can actually sail stuff in and hopefully ferry it across. So as the Greek player operating at my air base here, I want to start killing Italians. So I'm intercepting that bomber.
Cool.
My 2 strike assets here, they could go here with a view potentially 2, 4, 6. I've got just enough range to do it, to try and hang on to that hex and evaporate some of these Italian units.
Sure.
That gives me 1.5 additional combat points, 4.5 points, allowing for CVB, we call it 5. And the Italians have got 3, 8, 9, 10, 15. So 3 to 1. With a negative in the die roll for weather. Yeah, my bombers are going here.
Cool.
Right, so I don't have much option. I've got to commit to that one. So we're pretty much ready now to see what happens in the next bit of naval stuff. Done all the ground movement, ships are sailing about, and amphibious assault's underway. There aren't any paratroops available at this point here. I can't see anything else that the Italian player can do, except for look for his reinforcements in the Axis OB, wherever we hit that from.
Yeah.
You got it? So there might be something happens this game time, I don't know.
I don't think so. Game turn, what's the date?
The October 2 turn.
October.
That's German stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
Starts at page 40, old boy.
Oh, there we go.
Thereabouts. So we're looking for general reinforcements.
October 2.
Here you go, October 2.
Yeah. Don't think there is anything.
Let's have a quick look. So on page 43, there are general reinforcements.
Right.
So you get the Pole Army HQ and the 8th Corps HQ.
Right.
Please find them. All right, we'll shove them in Jerezi because they're being sailed across. And would you believe his bombers are landing back in Italy because they were pulled out. But you do get half a G50 BIS and a mixed transport. Now this is really important, that mixed transport, because the port capacity in Albania is pretty terrible. And as things go to hell in a handcart, the Italian government decided to fly stuff across. So you're aware, that's actually what they did to help Franco a lot. They provided a lot of air transport. So there's a mixed T1, I think it is. It might be in this wee pile here. So we need that. No. Have you got the Air Force counters? And I'll have a wee look for it.
Yep, there we go.
For you. And you go, got it.
Cool. Apologies for the interference from my cough, ladies and gentlemen. Right.
Army HQ should be on that sheet there.
Yep.
And 8th course.
Right, HQ signed.
To stick underneath the icon. I'll show you an HQ. That's an HQ.
There we go. It's got the flag, isn't it? Yeah, that's fine.
So we need the pole one. Or you got it punched?
Yeah, it's possible. 6 here. Got one
there. 6, yeah, no, it's V Federalized 8 core.
Right, okay.
How the hell with it? I'm going to give you an army headquarters. I don't really care which one.
Fine.
And we need, so find the reason I'm being a wee bit cautious about not just dumping this on the map, guys, is the maybe back printed poll. Is that when the Italian army starts to respond rapidly to this, there's a whole bunch of conversions that you need to be aware of. And those conversions give you 2 army headquarters and an army group headquarters in Albania. And it's very convoluted, let's put it that way, and I've simplified it. You really don't want to know how many changes you did in about a week. They effectively fired people, recruited people, promoted people, moved people sideways, fired them again, rehired them, God knows. And they all go into these headquarters, and it gets really, really, really confusing. So Super Alba may well be on the map as an army HQ, and then the flip side of it will be the core one. So we're going to shift that army straight across to there. And we do need a core headquarters. And I'm a bit confused as to why, because I know it's in the counter mix. This is one where I absolutely know it's there because it's so important and it get checked about 20 times. 6th Army, Solaire Corps, Zara Corps. If we haven't got Zara set up, because we're not going that far north in this, put it in. So remember I said you need one over here. Well, this is it. It gets railed, it moves down there from there. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 1. So it can actually go 6. And it has movement, just so you know, in some games call it exploitation, we call it pursuit. So a second dose of movement in the game. Now on this one game turn, the Italians do not have that opportunity because they attacked so late in the month. Right, so we've done everything we can there. Let's do the amphibious assault now. The Greeks haven't flown any aircraft. You guys have 10-to-1 odds plus a quarter of a point of air power. So it's slightly more than 10-to-1. Now, TSWW is a percentile based system. Okay, so 10.25 divided, sorry, 12.25 divided by 1.2. So it's 10.2. The Allied player now rolls 2 dice. Or the Italian player rolls. Get 92, it's above 20%. Tough. It's 10-to-1 odds. Please roll a die.
5.
Right, find the CRT for ground combat. You may have it, I may have it. Doesn't really matter which one of us got it. Have a quick look. Big chart.
Yeah.
It says ground combat results chart on it.
Yep.
That's what we want. Got it?
No.
A handful.
Fantastic.
Getting there, getting closer. Found that we keep finding this movement chart now that we don't need it. I think I've got it right here. Okay. Guys, here's the PDF copy. It's so much easier. There we are, we've got it. So 10-to-1, we're off the chart that way. It's 9-to-1 or higher. You rolled 5. Poor weather. So let's take a wee look. And what are we tacking into in there? Fortification. I'm going to move all these out of the way so you can actually see this. Fortification and some clear terrain. Okay, so level 1 fort is not great, but it does give a negative. So taking a wee look at what the fortifications do. Fieldworks, level 1. By -1 on the dive right across the board, guys. So you're 5 in the fort. Okay?
Yep.
For weather, no die roll impact. So you just roll a 4 on the CRT, which of course, did I give you the CRT? Or I got it here. I've got it here. Right. So 4 way across there. Well, guess what? It's a defender eliminated. So the Greeks just lose their brigade. All right. That is now toast. That's gone. And the Italians were attacking from 2 hexes. There and there. You can advance after combat. If I were you, I'd advance that division forward and leave that there.
Yeah.
Right? I would not do anything else.
Fair enough. Don't forget that one.
Yep, so we're going to do amphibious attack. Now it's, sorry, that was a result for amphibious assault. Bugger. So I need that brigade back. This is what happens when you're trying to do this and you get distracted and you're talking to people online. It's not that we don't love you all. Okay, so for this one here, the maths is a tiny bit more convoluted. The reason the maths is a tiny bit more convoluted is that the terrain itself has a big impact in combat, as you can imagine, and different types of units are impacted different ways. So I need to find my magic chart of terrain stuff. Here we go. So we know that's clear. It's all clear basically there that people are attacking into. There are no bits and pieces here to worry about too much in terms of whatever we've got. The cavalry, however, is affected. Now, why is that? Fortifications and cavalry don't mix. Geoff is the historian. While I work this out, it multiplies the printed strength by point something. So in this case, it's 0.75. So we've got 0.75 plus the 5 for the artillery, plus 1 for that infantry regiment, plus 5 for that division. So we get 11.75 printed combat strength points for the Italians. Their combat efficiency, as we keep saying, is 1. The ground CEV for our friends the Greeks is 1.4. So we slightly screwed up the calculation here, but for the assault, the amphibious assault is still a win. So the Greeks are 3 times 1.4, 4.2.
Cool.
Okay. No one's got any anti-aircraft, so any ground support aircraft are fine, are effectively okay. So the Greeks add in 3 divided by 4. It's in the rules, just take it as a quarter unless it's called T. 0.75 plus, was it 4.2 I said? So please try and remember 4.95. The Italians, I have to calculate it again, 0.75. 11.75. They've got 1, 2, 3, so they've got 0.75 worth of air power. There's divided by what, 4.95?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so it's 2.52 to 1.
Oof.
Minus 1 in the die roll.
10.
Can you roll 2 dice as well? I'll keep that die. Just roll 2 die because it's a percentile. What did he get?
6.
16. Well, you round it up.
Yeah. So
because you're underneath 52%. So you're 3 to 1.
Yeah.
Oh, and here's the wife. She's bringing us orange juice for Geoff. We need to get him some beer, by the way, because he's probably on a paralytic on his orange juice.
Absolutely.
And is this coffee?
Yeah.
Oh, you've brought me anti-murder juice. That's brilliant. Thank you so much, darling. There is a discussion about strepsils going on here instead of playing a game. All right, so tier 2 superiority is a +1. Guys, look out in the rules. It's really easy to find. Local bomber superiority is a +1.
Yeah.
Fighter superiority technically is a +1. So you rolled, what was that, a 10?
Yeah.
Right. We need the CRT again. I think I know where this is going, by the way. I think we're going to find that our Italian friends have not just won this particular combat, but they've absolutely destroyed the Greeks. The CRT.
Well, if I'm running a war, I've got to look after my threat health.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Okay, so we're at 3 to 1, weren't we? And you rolled, what, 13?
16.
No, 10 plus 3.
10 plus 3.
Minus 1, it's 12. Yeah, December eliminated. So that lot there just died. We move that division into that hex. And let's see what happens further north, or further up. So we're now going to have to attack. Now, once you assign units to an attack, that attack happens whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Italians, again, have a lot of air power up here. But you didn't have bomber superiority, but believe me, you're so far, because you got a 10, you're basically winning no matter what. Anyway, so all these airplanes are going to have to fly back to base, so we'll do that just now. CR42, this came from here. And yes, the game rules do say we should be rolling to find out if the planes all match up. We're learning the system, don't worry about complex stuff like that. Just get used to playing it. Add in the awkward stuff. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 planes. So half a point, 1 point, 1 point, and 2 points. So 2, 3, 4 and a half, 4.5 times 0.25. So 1.125 points. And that 125 points of air power, that 0.125 might be important. Don't discount it. Okay? You've got armour and you've got infantry. It's into hills. Armour is better than cavalry in shitty terrain at times, but not always. So hills and desert hills, motorized and multiplied by a 1.25. So that into memory. So your 3 times 1.25, that's the Centauro armour division there. It's 3.75 plus that plus 5. Okay, but we also need to take a little look at what the field fortifications have done. Doesn't affect the combat mod, but there's a -1 for that, and there's potentially a -1 for the lovely weather. So have we look? Indeed there is. So there's -2 in the Italian die roll for this ground combat. Okay, so you get 9.875 in total.
Yep.
Okay. Let's do the Greeks. The Greeks have 4 times 1.4, 5.6. Okay, so that divided by 5.6 is 1.76 to 1.
Right.
You really need to roll 76 or lower.
Right.
Roll 2 dice, please. This is the percentile die roller. 19. You got it. Okay, so you're at 2 to 1. Roll 1 die, please.
0.
10. Well, you stop getting hot dice. We need to kill some Italians here. Okay, 10 at 2 to 1, yeah? And it's -2. It's a half exchange. So what does that mean? It means that Greek division just got flipped. Right?
Cool.
And it's forced to retreat.
Right.
The Italians must take an equivalent loss. So the Greek division has 2 stacking points.
Yep.
Victory. Not doing the victory that way. Okay. Armour's involved. So there is.
That must go.
So the armour division goes first before anything else.
Yep.
The Italians need to advance after combat. What unit are you going to advance? My personal suggestion, big hint, the infantry division.
Right, yeah. Take ground.
Take ground with the infantry. The armoured unit is now reduced and is very vulnerable to a counter-attack at some point.
Yeah.
So again, the air power returns to base. Now, the transport bomber type things and so on have all got to go back to Italy. So what I've just been doing is shoving them on the map into Italy. You can fly back. It's not too far for a bomber aircraft. It's within range. I don't even need to count it. I know that it is. Okay. We decided that we were attacking, as I recall, this hex with that lot there. So this is where it starts to get really interesting, because the Greek and Italian forces here, I would leave the engineer battalion out of combat, because the engineer battalion does not have a combat strength. Now that is a weird side effect to the way we do the mass guys. Later in the war we give them mandatory 1 for a full regiment because they are very good with explosives and so on and so forth. Early in the war they don't seem to have anything like enough of that stuff built into the unit for it to be valued at a 1. We don't understand why the rating system we used, and it is developed by the Dupuy Institute, doesn't allow for Bangalore torpedoes and satchel charges better, but it doesn't. And it would mean that even today, a US Army engineer group quite possibly wouldn't rate. And that just seems strange. However, you've got a mountain division. Now, the Alpini divisions are very good troops. And for people at Roberto Carrozio, we will be publishing, instead of an average CEV for the Italians, a real CEV per unit type.
Mm.
The Alpini will be a 2.
Oh.
The Italian armour will be about a 2. Everything else will be 0.5, except for the artillery.
Mm-hmm.
So all these infantry attacks that we just did, they got a win.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely guarantee the Italian army would have actually retreated, potentially, with the catastrophic losses.
Sure.
But you'll notice, so far, the Italians have done pretty well. This is a tough nut to take. It's wooded mountains, the weather's not great. The Greeks are highly motivated. The Greeks have 1.4 printed combat strength.
Yep.
The Italians have a 3, but we need to look at the terrain chart. Now, the reason we're looking at this so much is it does have all the different terrains. So it's poor terrain, others, wooded mountain. Right, so the Italians are attacking with 1.5 strength points, divided by 1.4, 1.07 to 1.
Right.
Okay. Roll the die.
There we go.
First with 2 dice first, see what we get. Thank you, God. You got a crap die roll. Okay, so it's 1 to 1. Roll a die, please. Just 1 die. I'd like roll it again. Come on, roll it properly. That's it. He gets a 6. That's fantastic. Right. It's not that I want to kill him, but yeah, we need something that looks historical here. Okay, so on the 1-to-1 column, we go down, roll a 6, -1 for the weather. Yeah, and we need to double check there isn't a -1 for terrain. Oh, yes, there is. Possibly more than that. Wooded mountain. Yeah, -3 on it. So, what did you roll? 6.
Yeah.
6 -3 -2 is 1.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. 1, 1, 1. Attacker halved. So we left the engineer battalion out of the combat, didn't we?
Yep.
Thank God for that. Where are they? There they are there. So the engineers are left holding the baby with no combat strength. The Alpine division's flipped on its back and must retreat. Okay. Remember I said to you guys, this didn't go very well for our Italian friends.
Alarmo!
Right?
Where's my Chianti?
Yeah, his Chianti has gone missing. Got one more attack to do up here. And it's this one here. So we've got a 5-6 Italian division, sorry, Greek division, in the Castoria hex. And it is actually the only clear hex for miles. And historically, by the way, the Italians took that hex. You've taken more by focusing down here a bit more. I've decided I'm going to intercept the one and only bomber unit that the Italians could spare. So let's do some air-to-air combat.
Brilliant.
Okay, it's really easy, this. If there's fighter escorts, we don't have any for this particular one. The fighter interceptors can choose to split their forces between engaging the escorts or bypassing the escorts and trying to attack the bomber force. It's up to you as the player. The bypassing unit is much more vulnerable if there's fighters still able to shoot at it. So there's a case to be made that trying to gain air superiority by shooting down the other guy's fighters first is a good way to go. Depends how desperate you are. Depends how serious the problem is. In this case, the bombers are unescorted because the Italians have machismo on their side and spirit. You're going to win. The Greeks are a bit annoyed. So the Greek fighter is a 6 attack and a 4 defense. The Italian bombers are 2 attack, 3 defense.
Yep.
So you subtract, that's them just there.
Yep.
Okay, so the P24F, you subtract the defense from the attack. So it's a +3 in their combat resolution table. Okay.
Right, should be here.
Which I think you might have actually.
Yep. I've got air and naval and victory primarily.
Yeah. So we can have that chart, please.
Here we go.
So looking at this, I don't know if you can see that very well, but we're up here +3 down there, yeah? Where you've got an R, that means you need to read this and find out what's happened. Some of the planes returned to base, some of the bombs were dropped, some are not. Where there's a number, all of that applies, plus there's a loss to the air unit. Now, obviously, as the Greeks, I'm really interested in trying to kill some Italians because they have the temerity, the disgusting temerity to take away my favourite holiday resort, my ferry to it, and to attack my country overall. That's just not on. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Right? The last thing I need to do is find the RCV table, which I think I had over here somewhere.
Don't blame me too much. Mustn't he's big and scary and he's telling me to do as I'm told.
You got a gun, go and shoot him. Right.
That's hard.
So, naval gun rate, we need that. Shadow table, don't need that. Naval efficiency. Where the hell's that? Did I give you the ground CV chart? I think it might be right beside that actually. This is what happens. I say I very rarely play it using this. In fact, I very rarely play this anymore, you may have guessed, because I just don't have time. As the game designer, it sounds like a really good job, right? It isn't, because I have to do everything. All the artwork's done to me. Aha, ground CV, air CV table, here we go. Greece, 1940, 0. That was an awful lot of hard work for no real benefit. Italians, 0. Right, we just roll the die then. So, if we take a look, do we have a modifier here? Type F. The bombs. Alright, just roll a die for you know, roll a die for me. Right, a 9.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, roll a die, please. That's your defense fire. 9. So you're on the -2 at 9. You return me, but I've done the damage if you like. I'm on the +3 at 9. You take a step loss.
Cool.
So mine gets flipped.
Yep.
My fighter goes back to its air base, having shot down 20 odd Italian bombers out of 25. Sorry, out of about 40 that were deployed. So you've still got a point of bomb load, and we've got 5, 5, and 5. So we have 15 Italian points attacking in clear terrain against plus 0.25 for that bubba there. So you're 15.25. Please remember that. The Greeks are 5 times 1.4, 7 points. So it was a 15.25 divided by 7. 2.17. So can you please roll 2 dice to do percentile again?
Uh, 8 and 4.
84. Yeah, way above. It's your 2 at 1. So roll 1 die, please. 2. It's gonna hurt. It's really gonna hurt. I don't need to look at it to know that wasn't a good die roll. He's used all his luck up in the coast, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sitting here laughing loudly as the allied player at this. Right? You'll notice, by the way, whenever I do these things, I always get the side that doesn't have the initiative. Right? Now, the game system does have an initiative system. We don't really care about it in this game because it doesn't change, but in the bigger titles, it does flip backwards and forwards. So it's 2 to 1. You rolled a 2, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Well done, sir. It's a -1. Yeah, the attacker takes 25% losses and retreats.
Yep.
Right, so wait a minute. So you've got 3 times where you need to lose 3 stacking points.
Right, okay.
So you flip
that one
division, and I presume you retreat it there to cover your core.
Yep.
You still need to take the stacking points. You've got to flip another division.
Yep.
I presume you'd retreat that there, and you'd retreat that division there. Yeah.
Cool.
That's about right, by the way, for the Italian attack. We've now essentially come to the end of all the ground combat stuff here. The Greeks can, because we do have a reaction phase, so units are more than 3 away and less than 6 away can react. So I'm going to move that regiment. It's 1, 2 points that way. Okay, that's as far as it can go because of the weather. How am I going to move That's too close. And there can move along with that division. 3, now it can actually go 3 along the railway. So you'll notice as the Greek player, I've already started to think, I can't move that, there's nothing down here that can move. I've already started thinking, okay, I need to prop this area here up, and I've punched in just through my own defences, doing a reasonable job. I've actually kicked the Italians back out of Greece.
Yep.
In this area here. Right? I'm looking at this coast thinking, hell, that's not good news. But I've got stuff down here that I can move on the railways and the roads and hopefully do something down this area, just as a holding point, and then advance it north. I don't really, as a Greek player, want to get tied in too much to fighting in the coast.
No.
So anywhere the Italian fleet turns up, if I can't intercept it, it's going to give me a bit of a pasting. The submarine forces are going to be left here to protect that area of the coast as much as possible, pretty much indefinitely. Because submarine counters, shove on the map, forget about them, unless you stumble across them with ships. If you take them back to port, they have to refit, it takes a time, so think carefully about where you put them first. As the Allied player, I wanted some coast defence, where I don't have even, coastal defence gunnery down here. So, looking at it, we need to see, because the Royal Navy is now entering the map, I need, have you got the counter sheets here? They've got the British on them.
Ooh.
I need, we've got it here, it's all right. Task Force and a carrier group. So they just came here. Okay. Now we know that this task force of all this assault landing stuff is in fact spotted. So I now need to look up night naval combat.
Royal Navy fighting at night? I never predicted that one. Next you'll be telling me I have bloody radar.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. I also have right, hang on a minute. There we go. So the Royal Navy has something called Night Naval Combat Training. Need to roll a die. Need to roll 4 minus 2. 2 at night. So you guys have just had your dinner. You've anchored up, having done your amphibious assault.
Everything's fine.
Everything's really good.
Yeah.
And the Italian anti-aircraft fire at night.
That's going to be awful.
It's not great.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Here Taranto is lovely around this time of year.
yeah, possibly. So 1 anti-aircraft fire. Trust me, guys, this is going to get real interesting real fast. For the Italians. Being not nasty here.
But you're A.B. Cunningham.
Yeah, well, I'm just making sure that my air units have been properly briefed.
Hmm.
Right, okay. So, my airstrike's coming in at night. Your A, as far as I can tell, is halved.
Mm.
Now, the Italian escorts that I deployed, there's a whole bunch of them. They all have a number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 and a half, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 3 is 18. So you get 9 points flat.
Mm.
Okay. Have you got the A table there, yeah?
Yep. 8,
Right.
7, 9.
Roll twice, please.
Twice.
Okay, so you got 10.
Yep. And the
So
2.
10 on the 9. So return 75%. Payload all is dispersed. Yeah, so basically that unit there goes away. Does nothing. And what was the other one? A 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nothing happens. Okay, so this swordfish unit
Right.
has 1.5 torpedo factors available.
Cool.
Right? So I need a die. I need to roll to see if I get 50%. Okay, so I actually roll too high. Okay,
Right.
so it's percentile, guys. So I've got a single torpedo point, but I've got +3, +2, sorry, +5, so I've got 12. Yeah, I've got a torpedo hit here.
Oh.
Okay, now we can randomly allocate it, which is what the game rules say, so we don't know what it's going to be. I'm just going to roll a die for torpedo. Need to roll. What does that come up with? 2. Okay, so let's check torpedo allocation. Combat. There we go. Yeah, divided by 5. Okay, so I have 1 hit. Okay. So can you please roll a die? There's all torpedo hits and anything smaller than a battleship or critical hits. Yeah. Randomly pick a ship, blow it up, and take it off the map.
Let's find a heavy cruiser.
Oh
yeah. Oh yeah. That's just like old times.
There we go. So the Italians have just lost the cruiser. And they heard that droning noise. So that's my carrier strike group done its job. That droning noise tells the Italian Navy what? Particularly biplanes.
Well, swordfish.
So you now know there's a carrier, but you couldn't spot it before you can run away.
Yeah.
The naval battle group continues into this hex. So, can you find the naval display, please?
Naval display.
It's an auto spot, guys, because of where they're at. It's a good coffee you've got, by the way. Are you dying on me?
No, not yet.
It's a shame. I've got a spade. We could just bury him in the garden. But I need there's a naval combat display, multicolored thing with strips.
Oh right. Oh,
You know the one, yeah.
Yeah, I think I literally just picked it up.
I'm pretty sure you've got it.
Yeah.
We really need that. This is where it gets fun. We're almost finished this game turn, by the way. And bearing in mind, we've done a lot of faffing about, we're showing you that actually you don't have to be well organised, you don't have to be clever. Give me the chart, so I'll have a quick look. There it is there.
You'd seen it.
Okay, so we don't need those counters, we might need some of the stuff in there. So everything starts at long range, except at night. I've already rolled, it's night time.
Yeah.
So the Italian Navy consists of, quite literally, most of their escort vessels, and they all have torpedoes, or many of them have torpedoes, right? That's a major threat to the... Because my force doesn't, but I can choose the range at which I engage.
Exactly.
Cunningham has told me, if you haven't sunk them, don't come back. Okay? So what we're doing, we're setting up. Now, my battle wagon commanders are not daft, right? They're going to set out at long range. But the destroyer boys take after Cunningham, so do the cruisers. They're all going in short. One of the things I'm going to check with the NNCT is whether or not I can actually even start this at torpedo range.
Okay.
Because the Axis don't get to fire till after I've done my first little horror bit. Okay, so that's how I'm deploying. Right? Destroyers and cruisers in close, battleships further out. Got it at night. Always starts at short range unless the attacker is NNCT, in which case it commences at long range. Also, Code R. It commences if the and their opposite is neither, it may choose the range. Initial, long, short, or torpedo. Yeah. So we're starting at short range with the heavies and torpedo range with everything else. You can see where this is going, can't you? You think, are you starting to feel the pain?
Not yet.
Okay, now the way this works is the Royal Navy and the Japanese Navy fired torpedoes and then fired guns. Usually as the torpedoes started going bang. There are a couple of problems with naval gunfire. A few mass ships fire against an opposing force. 5 or 6 ships, or 2 or 3 ships, or 1 or 2 ships firing at a single ship. There's confusion to follow shot. I've got enough ships for radar and whatever that it doesn't really matter quite so much, but it's not the point. Follow shot confusion always impacts upon things. Therefore, there's a -1 in my die roll when I gang up in ships. I will be ganging up in ships. Because these 2 cruisers are not going to survive.
No.
So 2 battleships are against your stronger of the 2 cruisers. The other battle wagons engaging the slightly weaker one.
Cool.
The assumption here, guys, by the way, is the Italian Navy's had to hang about to do gunfire support because the combat actually takes a lot longer than just a single die roll and a few moments to calculate it. If you think about it, it's a half-month game turn. Quite a lot's going on that we don't really show in this. It's abstracted out of the equation. In terms of all your escorts, I can virtually pair off against them. So I'm going to put my cruisers against your ships with more torpedoes for obvious reasons, because I want to kill them in a hurry. Yeah.
Try and get out of range and all that.
We'll be firing torpedoes at them and so on and so forth. So let's take a quick look at this. So it does say naval gunnery are modified by -2. Evasion is whacked up by my +2 unless the other side's got radar or NNTC. Okay. Range change attention +2 in favour of the people try to change. Are at a disadvantage. Hits in their ships are automatically critical hits for the Italians. Right? Torpedo strike attempts are modified by +2. Torpedo damage divisors are reduced from 3 to 2 for ships armed with long lance and 5 to 3 for all others. And their gunnery and torpedo 2 hit rolls are -2. So you're -2 in the die roll. Just for being Italian, unfortunately, in this case, because they didn't have night combat training. So, it's going to get a bit brutal, I suspect. So, having just watched the Pola explode, you guys have started to wake up. You went back to bed because the hangover from the really bad Chianti wasn't great. And all of a sudden, the horizon lights up with fire. So we're going to start with Warspite and Malaya against the Garibaldi. So we'll take them off the display and shove them here. Can you take a wee picture of those, please?
Take a picture of this one.
Right. And for this, I need my naval gunnery stuff. Which of course I've managed to hide, because I'm an idiot. Keep that. You know what, guys? The other trick, here we go. That's it. And you have a wee look at the naval charts. Fantastic. Right, we can put that up.
Cool.
And we're looking for the naval efficiency.
Yeah.
For this.
Naval chart.
What's on it?
I'm just going to hand you all of them.
Yeah, just wait a minute. Not that. Not that. Anything else there? Put it here. Nope. Nope. Good thing about this is I'm fairly quick at saying, no, that's not what I want. Success table. So it's then for 0. Very annoying. No. Okay, so I'm going to go look it up on the PC because I don't have time for this video to get much longer. It's strange. It's probably the one sheet of chart, Geoff, that we can't find.
Yeah, it's.
Well, it makes sense for it to be beside that. It needs to be more. We're going to change the layout of these. In fact, I might change the orientation, might make it easier. How the hell isn't that thing? In terms of means. Can you please roll 2 dice?
Yep.
Tell me there it comes.
4
Yeah.
and 60.
6. Okay. Yeah, you don't find my carrier group or anything of that ilk.
Yeah.
Ah, here we go. Yeah, so I'm actually +1, not +2 for this, but it doesn't really make too many differences. The radar mod's +1. So this is going to be quite brutal for essentially the Italians have a -2 and everything. And I've got effectively quits and everything.
Yep.
Or on some stuff. So the 2 battleships I've got float planes. We aren't using them because it's night. We're not that interested. We've got good night optics. The battleships have a choice here, but everything's a critical hit. So the way we do it is we take a look at the protection rating, which is the number at the top right. So the cruiser has a protection rating of 5. I've got an attack value of 39 on Warspite. So we could do 39 -5, and we're guaranteed to be off the scale. Right? But we've got a lot more firepower than that. Now, we could split the ship's firepower and actually hit a destroyer with it.
Sure. But
15-inch cannon against destroyers is a bit of a waste of time.
Yeah.
It's actually not that effective. So what we are going to do, though, is really make a mess of this cruiser, because what we can do is do multiple firings. Yeah? So we need to be +11, which guarantees hits, or +10, which all but guarantees hits, or +9. So the way the naval chart works, if you take a look at it, you've got 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6, etc. Those are the number of points more or less that you have than the gunnery. So if you've got 5, you've got to add on to get 2 here. You've got to put 7 against that ship.
Sure.
You with me?
Yeah.
So it's just a simple comparator. Okay. So I must, looking at this, I probably want to be an 8. 8 and 5 is 13. 13 goes into 39 3 times. And I'm going to do the same with Milia.
Cool.
So I'll get 6 dice to see if I hit you. And if I do, things are going to go bang. Well, I got a 4 and a 7. I'm revenue neutral. So I've got 2 hits. These are all critical hits, by the way.
Yep.
Yeah. A 2 is a miss. But I've got a 3rd hit and I've got another 2 dice. That's a critical hit. That's a critical hit. Right. So we got 1, 2, 3. Off the 6 possibles, I get 5 hits.
Yep.
You might as well roll some dice to see how bad this is going to be. But basically, it's sunk. Yeah, it blew up. Right, it's gone. Right. So the Garibaldi is no more. Okay. So now we've got one of my battleships against the Diaz. 41. It's the same calculation. 5 is the typical defense value for a cruiser. I can get 3 guaranteed here. 3 dice. So let's do that. And yeah, critical hit, miss. Right, so I've got 2 critical hits. Please roll 2 dice. Oh, 3 and a 6. Let's have a quick look at the critical hit table. Okay, 1 extra hit. And 3, a 6 rather, 2 extra. Yeah, it's toast. Right? She didn't blow up, guys. She was just crippled so badly she was scuttled or sank through terminal damage. So that is the Diaz, which was there.
Ooh, right.
Now, you've been moving your destroyers off the map, haven't you?
Whoops.
You're just trying to rescue your destroyers. Okay, so we actually do have a couple of half-decent destroyers here. Now, the Italian ships can fire back.
Really?
Yeah, they can. So we need to do that. So you've got 11, you got 13. I've got 8 defense strength. Okay. Which battleships do you want to shoot at?
Yeah, but how far?
Doesn't matter. What are you going to shoot at?
So
Which way you don't? If I know you've got a soft spot for Warspite, so by the way, fire at Malia and Valiant.
there we go. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a 13 to 8. Just on the 5 table, roll a die.
Yep. Single die.
A 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a miss.
Yep.
And you've got an 11 to 8 on the 3 table, so please roll a die. Yeah, I mean, they didn't even get into the gun turrets, I don't think, in that one there. Right, so that's the initial part for the battle done here. So we now have cruisers against some half-decent destroyers. We've got a couple here. And bearing in mind that we're going to have to do much the same little bit of math to see what the best solution is, right? Because I don't want to muck about with cruisers. Now, I'm looking at this chart that I've been using, gun rate chart. I need to have reasonable chances of hitting these things. I'm also going to be firing torpedoes here.
Right.
As the British player.
Yep.
The Italian player cannot fire torpedoes because he doesn't know he's getting fired at yet. So I'm going to roll for my torpedoes. 1, 2, got 1 hit. 3. Yeah, I only got 1. So that one there's got torpedoes about to hit it. Let's see what I get. I got a 5 divided by, yeah, okay. So I've got, need to roll because it's 1 point something. Yeah, I get, right, yeah, I miss. I only get 1 hit on it with a torpedo. Please roll a die. 7. Yeah, that destroyer sunk by the torpedo. Right, but it's all right. Just wait a minute because we're also going to shoot at it just to make sure it's dead.
Sure.
Because we don't really like them. So the round's going to engage the D'Arosso. The Vivaldi's just been blown out of the water by York's torpedoes, but she's firing anyway because she's given away her position. Sydney's going to have a go at the Boreas. Okay, so let's deal with Orion against the D'Arossi. We've got 11 points as a British player. I can guarantee 1 hit.
Yep.
Pretty much, right? So I'm going to take 1 round of fire.
Mm-hmm.
If I do 2 rounds of fire, I get 6 and a 5 out of the ship. They're both on that one there. I'd need to be 6 or higher to get a hit.
Sure.
On a revenue neutral die roll.
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to do that? It's a 50-50 shout. Or do I just take the guaranteed hit on it, which will be critical? We'll take the guaranteed hit.
Yeah.
So, roll a die, please. 7. Yeah, 2 extra hits, sunk.
Yep.
So those 2 are now sunk. I'm going to roll for that. Yep, hit against that one. Wait a minute. And I get a critical hit on that, but go for that one. Roll critical for that one as well. 4, 1 extra hit, sunk. Okay.
There we go.
So now you guys get to fire back.
Mm-hmm.
On the -1 or the 1 roll.
Yeah.
The chances of you hitting anything here are 0 because of the -2 for night.
Sure.
Right, or the the -1. But right, so the British have fired that lot there off. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all engaged. So far, it's not been a good night for the Italians. 3 cruisers, 3 destroyers sunk. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is all one combat, guys, right? So we'll take these 3 destroyers here, or destroyer escorts. These are actually fleet destroyers, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
And the British are looking at this, and we really want to kill these guys. We need to kill as many of these ships as possible because Admiral Cunningham is not going to tolerate failure. Just so you know, he used to cashier officers if he felt they had not been aggressive enough. And it worked.
Mm.
Can I have the die, please? Yes, we have 2 dice here. That's 7. That's 1 torpedo hit there. 9's a torpedo hit there. 10's a torpedo hit there. They're all critical. Doesn't really matter what I roll on it. 8's. Yeah, so I've got hits on all 3 destroyers because of what I just rolled with this. Can you now please roll for critical damage on all 3 destroyers?
Oops.
Okay, wait a minute. So the first one is a 9.
Yep.
Okay, that's blown out of the water. That's a 3.
Yep.
If that's blown out of the water, we need to roll 1 more die, please. Yeah, it completely blew up, right? It just says ship sunk, but generally look upon that as it blew up. And they're all a 2, aren't they?
Yep.
You know, I still have to do my gunnery, but there's no point. But we are going to do 1 of them. So I've got 2 destroyers for 8 points firing at a destroyer, which is 3. So I'm on the 5 channel here, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I need to roll quite high here. I roll a 10 for a critical hit.
Mm.
Take another die roll in the critical hit table, please. This is going to be quite amusing. Yeah, 7. Okay, so the first destroyer, which is the one we had here, basically took enough hits to sink a heavy cruiser.
Yikes.
Okay?
Yeah.
This is the whole point of night combat from the British perspective.
Mm.
Could you please roll a die? Because you might actually hit something. No. So you were actually rolling on the one thing you needed effectively a 10.
Mm.
I'm not going to bother with these ones here, but that's another 3 destroyers down.
Mm.
Yeah?
Yep.
The Italian Navy is now taking the kind of hit that really results in officers getting sacked.
Mm.
Right? Left, right, and centre. So the British again double up their destroyers on the Italian escorts. You'll notice I sent the bulk of the destroyer force with the surface strike force.
Mm.
That was quite intentional because the way I'd set up the Italians, the way I thought you would set up, which was really anti-submarine warfare plus naval bombardment.
Mm.
Yeah, I thought it was probably worth my while sending a lot of destroyers because I needed to match you.
Mm.
Or outmatch you, as the case may be. So what we now have here is a 5 and an 8, so that's 1 hit here. 3 and a 1, that's a clean miss with my torpedoes, the first one. And a 6, which is also a clean miss with my torpedoes. Right, the Royal Navy are losing their touch. Right, so this destroyer here, could you please roll a die for a critical? Oops, sorry, it's an 8. Let's have a look. Yeah, sunk. Right, so this guy here is blown out of the water, but we won't move him off the map quite yet. The other 2 are wondering why all their pals have blown up and the alarm bells are going off, right? So I need to roll 8 to 3, so it's on the 5 channel. Yeah, I just got a 9. So I've got a definite hit. That's critical against this one. Could you roll that die for critical hit damage, please?
Yeah. So just there we go. You there.
Another 9. I just roll. It's a 6. 6 sunk. Next destroyer, roll again, because I just hit you. I got a 9 again. Blown out of the water. Right, okay, so that said, roll 3 dice, please. We'll see if you get a critical hit. If you do, we're going to roll for damage to the British. Not one more. Oh, almost, but not quite. So those 3 destroyers have just been blown out of the water. The Royal Navy are scarpering now. They're about to disengage. They've come to do what they wanted to do. So we had a couple of more destroyers, and we've only got 3 British ships left to engage with. Yeah. So I'm going to double up on 1 and go 1 to 1. So I need my dice, please. So I've got 2 dice against 1. I missed with torpedoes again. Oh, critical hit by that one. Okay, so this one here has just been blown out of the water potential. I'm going to roll another die. 6 on... It's actually 5 on 3. Well, this guy here survives to go home. What? What? I missed. Can you please roll for a critical hit on that one there? Phew. No effect. He has 1 hit of damage. He is going home.
What?
But this is Italy.
Right. Can you then please roll 2 dice for your fire at me? Just see if you get lucky. No. No. Okay, so the Italian fleet here is lost. What was that? 10?
10 destroyers.
No, not quite 10. I didn't engage them.
Oh, right, okay. So
you engaged. You lost 7 destroyers and destroyer escorts and 3 cruisers. I've lost nothing. The Royal Navy, having done its job, guys, is now departing to go home. That brings to an end this video. And I hope you've seen in 45 minutes, I've taught you a little bit about how to move stuff, how to do ground combat, how to do some air combat, and have a great deal of fun blowing away ships at night. If this had been daytime combat, the Royal Navy would have probably lost 4 or 5 ships, which would be about right, given the proximity of the Italian forces. I think this has been helpful. If you like it, ask for more, because we can do more detailed stuff, or I can do it without Geoff here. He's going home tomorrow. And we can take a look at what's actually within the various bits of the game in a bit more detail and see how it fits together. We haven't been too serious about the rules. We've intentionally mucked it up. We could have had all these set up and pinned them in the wall or whatever, had them in a folder so it was easy to find. I'm not that organised. I'm sure you're not at home. The first time you play a game, you're going to be scattering about. It's been pretty quick. I've enjoyed it. Have you enjoyed getting blown away? Yeah. Have you enjoyed blowing me away as the Greek player?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So what we have is a fairly historical result. To be fair, the Italians historically did a bit more inland than they did on the coast. But the reality of it is, situation normal. The Italian army lost 4 divisions out of about 7 deployed. They lost the bulk of their fleet when they made the mistake of putting it in a position where it could get at it. That happened at Matapan. They took a pasting at Matapan. They took several pastings on the run to North Africa, particularly at night. Fundamentally, nothing you've just seen here is unreasonable, all things considered. As this game here, if we continue to play it, goes on, what you'll find is the Greeks will stabilise on this line and launch limited counterattacks. Then they'll launch a big counterattack. Something nasty will happen to the Italians, probably over in this area here. The reason it works like that, simply put, is the Italian army does start to build up, but there's a lag. They can't get enough in quick enough. So the Greeks, who are stronger, as you saw, you know, a 5-strength unit, suddenly, because of the CV, is 7, right? It drops a little bit in 1941 because of accumulated losses and losses of small unit leaders. But that 5 is still times 1.3 is 6.5 points. So if you've got 25, 30 points times 1.3, the Italians need to have, what, 10 points in a hex?
Mm.
They need to dig in. They need bad weather. The Greek army on the offensive is predominantly mountain troops.
Mm.
And if you take a look at the charts, guys, you'll see that the mountain troops have a plus up. So that 32 points is closer to 40.
Mm.
It suddenly becomes a major problem for the Axis to defend here.
Yeah.
Historically, there is a line in our maps, a dotted line. You can see the dotted line. That's how far the Greeks got. I've only failed to do it once myself with the old version of this. I haven't played this one all that far forward, but we could do it fairly quickly if we wanted to. My suspicion is we're going to get the same result, which it grinds to halt because of logistics and just cumulative losses on both sides. If I was playing this knowing that the Axis were likely to send the German army in through Yugoslavia or whatever, I wouldn't be doing an awful lot over here. But that would be me playing with historical hindsight. It's up to you guys to do it, how you want to do it.
Yeah.
Have a wonderful weekend, whenever your next weekend is. Have a good laugh at us screwing this up. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a wonderful night. Take care. Goodbye.
And happy war fighting.